had to do the da.
Hey guys, Nico here, welcome back. Gonna make a new tutorial video in my series of how to become a better StarCraft 2 Terran player by talking about hotkeys. Now, this is going to be a very specifically directed towards me focus on how you use hotkeys, because there are many different ways of going about. I will, as I said, be focusing on only the way I do it, and I'll be talking a bit about the other ways you can and cannot do stuff. The reason why I'm making this video is because it's really important that you really focus on getting your hotkey set up very well down, and that you only use hotkeys. Usually only want to use your mouse for moving around units, and that's basically it. Selecting units, moving them around, boxing, and during micro, of course. So we'll start with the Orbital Command. I just set up a game on Zelnaga Caverns for us to for demonstrative purposes, and I've put down all the buildings you'll need. I converted this to Orbital Command, and as soon as I start, I will put it on Control Group 5. Now, I might suggest that you put it on 4. I wouldn't suggest putting it on from 1 to 3, just because I think you should have your units there. But that's just, again, and the last time I'm saying it, that's how I want it, and that's how I'll suggest it, based upon that. I'm putting my OC on 5, so that if I want to produce the SCV, I press 5S. I never click the Orbital Command and press S. I press 5S. Even if the Orbital Command is selected, I press 5S. And that way I always secure that the procedure for making an SCV is the same. So if I have this building selected, I'll press 5S, and if I have the Orbital Command selected, I'll still press 5 then S. So my barracks, which is my next building, I will put on 4. Now that's just how I do it, I said. On 4, I'll put my barracks, and you want to put a rally point, of course. So now I have my barracks on 4, OC on 5, my factory I'll put on 6, my starport I will put on 7. Now you could just select all these buildings here and put them in one control group. Let's say we put them on 0, and then you could tab through the different buildings. So you could press 0 and you could build a Viking, tab, Marine, tab, Hellion. Now I wouldn't suggest doing that, that's just me. So let's just look at it my way. 4, 5, 6, 7. On my 0 I'll put my engineering bay or base, and on 9 I'll put my armory. Now the only time I use tabbing to go through a hotkey setup is when it's like this. I'll have 2 tech labs, one on the barracks, one on the factory. I'll put both those tech labs on 8. I'll have my main force on 1, and I'll have my additional units on 2 and 3. I'll show you how I do it. So let's start by making an SCV. 5S, we want to make a Marauder. 4D, we want to make a siege tank. 6S, and we want to research siege tech. So then we press 8 and we press tab S, and let's say we want stim as well, we press tab T. 6, and I focus on the building. I'll just set a rally point. 7, I want to make a Medivac and a Viking, so I press DV. If you hold your mouse over, you'll see behind build Viking there's a V in a parenthesis. That's the button you want to press. Now after the patch that just released, you can customize your hotkeys, but I'm not going to take that into account. My siege tank is done, and siege tech is about to finish researching. But I'm going to make one more siege tank, 6S. Make one more Marauder, 4D, and 7 DV. Or I could make double Medivacs. Now the importance of using hotkeys isn't only while you're looking at your base. As you might understand, hotkeys are a very efficient way of producing units, but it's also a very efficient way of focusing back to your base or back to your production without actually having to look at your base. So now that siege tech is done, we're going to keep producing units
Ready for dust off.
Just make a couple more Vikings and then SCV. Let's say I need combat shield and I want the infernal pre-igniter. It's I just pressed 8 and then I tabbed between the tech lab, which is on the factory, and the barracks. Let's start the engineering bay upgrade for weapons attack level 1. You just press 0 E. Again, you just hold the mouse over to C. And let's start the vehicle weapons level 1, which also is on E. So you'll press 9E. Now this is pretty self-explanatory. So let's see if we can't show you a bit more about how we use hotkeys. Would be nice if we had a ghost. And if we weren't about to be supply blocked. There you go. So, when it comes to unit hotkeys, I would like to have my 3 buttons 1 to 3 with separate assignments. Now, my medevacs are the only units that I now really don't want to have in a hotkey group, just because I'm not going to be using them actively in this scenario. So what I'll do is I'm taking my Vikings, I'm putting them on 3, I'm taking my siege tanks and putting them on 2, and I'm taking my infantry and I'm putting them on 1. So now you have your infantry on 1, your siege tanks on 2, your Vikings on 3, and you can select your medevacs, take the scan move, or just press A, and then you just click one of your units. Then the medevacs will follow in a safe distance behind, and you won't have them in your key group like this. It makes it much easier to move around. Let's say you want to move back, you might actually end up clicking a medevac and loading all the units. I'm pretty sure everybody's done that. So what I'll do, as I said, I won't have my medevacs hotkeyed, and I'll have my units hotkeyed and the medevacs following. A marauder popped, select the marauder, and I press shift 1. Press shift 1, now it's a part of the 1 control group. 2 more Vikings, shift 3, siege tank, shift 2, and there all my units are hotkeyed. So let's move out. Now, it might seem pretty hard to be moving around with 3 different hotkeys, and I do agree. I wouldn't. I think probably the very best players might actually move all their units separately, but a nice trick is deciding which units you want at the front. So let's say I want to move with my infantry, which is what you'd normally do. I'll take my tanks and I'll just right-click a unit. I'll take my Vikings and I'll just right-click a unit. Now they'll follow after, and I can still move around by only selecting the 1 group. You see 2 and 3 are there, but I'm not moving around with them. So now we're going to move out and we're going to see if we can't find any action. We have a ghost there, that's very nice. Now I usually don't have both ghosts and Vikings at the same time, just because you usually just select one of them based on what you're doing. As I said, mainly against Protoss you will have either ghosts or Vikings, and I don't honestly use the nukes, so I wouldn't use ghosts in TVT. I probably should learn to, by the way. Either way, I'll just be putting my ghost in my 3 hotkey, so I'll press shift 3. And now when I move around, I have my infantry on 1, my siege tanks on 2, my Vikings and my ghosts on 3. My medevacs are still following after. So we're going to move out now, and we're going to start walking around. Now this is a very important phase where you don't want to take your eyes off your units like that. So it's important that you can keep your construction up at the same time. To do that, you'll just press 4 and you'll press the hotkey you want to make. Let's say I want to make another ghost. I'll press 5 to make an SCV, I'll press 6 to make a siege tank, and I'll press 7 to make air units. Now comes the focus on tapping. If I press 4, 1, 4, let's see, okay, there is production, so I'll press 1 and move on. 5, no SCV producing, and I'll press 1 again. 6, siege tank still producing, so I'll just leave it alone. 7, still under production. This is what's called tapping. You just press the hotkey for what you want to focus on, and you see that something is producing. If not, you really want to produce something. Barracks is not producing. Starport isn't producing, and nor is my factory. Now that way I can move around with my forces and just press the hotkey once, start the production, and keep moving, never being caught off guard. So let's say that I come to this Alnaga watchtower here, I press 5S, and then I see units. I'll press 2E, and my tanks will siege. Let's say there's a Colossus here. I'll just move around with my Vikings that are on 3, and I'll do what I can. Now it isn't optimal to have your both Vikings and Ghosts at the same button, but you can modify that how you like. Let's say I only have a Ghost.
Yes, sir.
I'll move around, I'll see his units, I'll press 2E, 3, and I'm going to EMP him, and I'll stim and run in. So what I did was I used all my hotkeys, and you saw how easy that was. Now if I didn't have hotkeys, it would be something like this. If I had all in one group, if I want to siege my tanks, I would have to press tab, 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 E, and I would need to press tab, 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 and then EMP, and I would need to press tab, TA. Now if you are happy with that, you might as well do it, but you don't want to send your Viking running in if you don't have to. So that was the basics about hotkeys, about tapping, and just start using hotkeys as good as you can. Always look at your production, keep a close attention to that, and if you need to, and this is just an additional tip, if you need to go back to your base just to look at something, I would put my all my units following, and I would attack move towards my base, and then I would look at my base to build my expansion. I don't want to have my units just sitting here. I want to have them attack moving back, and when I'm finished, I'll just move forwards again, unless you have a really good siege position. Alright, that's everything guys. I'll see you next time.